Within the space of a week, Boris Johnson has achieved a lot. His approval rating has gone up by 10 points, or the party's has, and he's even managed to stomach going all the way up to Scotland to meet the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, which is what I want to focus on today. See that clip? Yeah, he was booed by the 5 or 6 people that live in Scotland. Congratulations, Boris. You're officially approved. Some interesting little facts I wrote down that I thought I would like to address now. Boris is the head of the UK government. To Byron King, who made a video about Boris, I'll link it below. Not English government, UK. There's a slight difference. There are 3 other countries involved. Nicola Sturgeon is head of one of the devolved administrations, so her powers are quite limited by comparison to that of Boris's. Boris wants to leave the EU. Nicola Sturgeon wants a second referendum and to remain in the EU, where the voices of the Scottish people will totally not be drowned out. It should be now pointed out that if Scotland did vote independence and did rejoin the EU, it is more than likely they would have to be put through a universal translator several times before the universal translator crashes, requires a system update, probably a firmware problem, and settles on the nearest accent and language that is akin to Scottish. Klingon. I also want to make the serious remark. If the will of the Scottish people is being ignored by 3 other countries, how are you going to cope when 26 other nation-states are also ignoring you within the EU? While some of your policies undoubtedly align with that of the EU's ambitions, you will be voted against on many issues and it will hurt the Scottish people. Working with the UK government is preferable, but you are reluctant to do that and we'll certainly address that another time. A final thing that I thought was quite amusing. Boris Johnson was not elected, he was selected by his party after a campaign where he should have in theory been Prime Minister 3 years ago. Nicola Sturgeon, also not elected but selected after Alex Salmond stepped down due to a number of controversies. He had actually made it a career to try and get Scottish independence when he failed. I don't think he's a member of the SNP anymore after a recent spate of sexual harassment related accusations. Now back to the talks between Sturgeon and Boris. Interestingly, Boris had in fact had a phone call chat with her to discuss the fact that he is going to take the UK out of the EU, where undoubtedly Nicola Sturgeon would have mentioned Scottish interests in remaining. During the meeting that they had, Nicola Sturgeon indicated that the current Prime Minister's Brexit plans would hurt the economy for Scotland. It should be noted, any plans that involve leaving the EU harm the economy based on projections only. Leaving with no deal, yes, would hurt the economy if we are unable to secure deals that could take their place quick enough. It is why Boris, in his maiden speech in Parliament, indicated that this was being escalated in preparation for no deal. Of course, even if we have a deal, we'll take those deals as well because we are a very, very selfish Ferengi country. Prior to meeting with Nicola Sturgeon, Boris Johnson met with the Scottish Conservative leader Ruth Davidson, who is opposed to no deal, but it's pointed here, and it should be pointed out, he's not trying to push for no deal, he is prepared to go through with no deal. Where Ruth Davidson was quoted as saying, "We covered a number of areas talking about Brexit. They need to make sure we can get a deal across the line and I support the Prime Minister wholeheartedly in getting that deal. We talked about how we can continue to have the UK government deliver in Scotland for Scots and how we can build on that delivery, and also how we can continue to take on Nicola Sturgeon and oppose her obsession with another independence referendum." Since the meeting with Nicola Sturgeon took place, she has come out and said that Johnson is setting an inevitable path to a no-deal Brexit. This actually comes directly from a video as well, where she was quoted as saying the very same thing, and I will play that now.
Behind all the bluff and bluster, this government and the path that it is pursuing, I think, is dangerous. It became clear to me that this government, the new Prime Minister, has set the UK on an almost inevitable path to a no-deal Brexit. The position that it has taken makes it very difficult to see how any deal can be struck with the EU, and I think that would be catastrophic for Scotland and indeed for the whole of the UK.
I wonder if The Guardian are going to copyright claim that. There are a number of issues when it comes to the UK government and the devolved administrations. The devolved administrations, many of which would like to have absolute autonomy, but they can't. When they are granted such, like Nicola Sturgeon has to an extent within Scotland, especially when it comes to money, they have abused it to the point of harming the populace. You think no deal will hurt the population, but you're already hurting them by increasing your tax rates. It's actually quite tragic. Only the blind follow those that manipulate, after all. Someone's going to take that out of context. To the one twerp that does, fuck off. The point is, Scotland wanting to look after Scotland's interests while admirable is not taking into consideration a bigger picture, which I find astonishing for a country that wants to be a part of a bigger picture that they don't fully understand.